I never thought I'd be able to say the sentence, I loved 8th grade. I mean, obviously I imagined it in a different context, but here we are, I can officially say it, I loved 8th grade. I'm John Hayeck, and welcome to my movie thoughts. 8th grade. So this is a new movie written and directed by Bo Burnham, the stand-up comedian. I've seen some of Bo Burnham's work before. It's not particularly what I always love in stand-up, but I think the guy's a genius. He has very different formats that I think work for what his shows are. And I was interested when I heard he was making a film debut, because I was expecting it to be kind of like a weird, trippy type of movie, but it actually turned out to be a sincere, heartfelt, focused character study on what it's like to be in the most awkward phase of your life. This movie centers on Kayla Day, played by Elsie Fisher. She's finishing up her last week of 8th grade. She's in that period of her life where she doesn't really know what she's going to do when she gets to high school. She doesn't really know how she's supposed to feel about herself. She lacks self-esteem. She's a very anxious person. She's a person that likes going on social media and making YouTube videos, but ultimately doesn't feel like she's all that validated by her peers. She doesn't feel like they appreciate her for who she is. She isn't all that confident of a person. Basically who I was when I was in 8th grade. This movie spoke to me very personally. It felt bitingly real at points. It felt like it was just so charmingly awkward, and I felt like it was a place where I had been before, because I have been. 8th grade feels like it's the type of movie that captures what it's like to be in, I would say high school, because most coming-of-age movies are in high school, but it feels like what it is like to be in middle school. I feel like this is one of the most accurate to-life tellings of a middle school movie that you've possibly seen, because when you think about it, most of the time you see movies, it's like middle school, the worst years of my life, which was actually a movie, and it's like a hammy comedy. Same thing with the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. They're like these hammy comedies and everything like that. This is just about anybody who's been to 8th grade before. This is a movie that really touches upon what it's like to be unsure of what the future holds. This is a movie that's basically exploring what it's like to be unsure of who you are. And I don't think many movies I can think of that take place in middle school have addressed such a thing before. This movie, it's not only new in that way, but it feels new in that it addresses so much of what it's like to have gone to middle school and to have gone to high school and to just be living in an age of social media. Because as I mentioned, Kayla's very, very obsessed with Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, YouTube. She loves all of those things. And being a person that also is on social media probably a little bit too often, I just felt like, yeah, I've seen that where I'm like, oh yeah, pause to watch the Instagram video. Oh yeah, that's funny, I like it. And then, or going through Twitter and be like, yep. Oh, that headline caught my attention. Yep. And at a point she like breaks her phone and I'm like, oh, wait, and she like completely reacts to it and I'm like, yep, I would react the same way. Like, this is like just unbearable. It felt like, even though I am in the movie, I think they said she was class of 2017, which is the year I graduated high school, so even though I'm 4 years older than this character, I feel like I've been in this character's shoes, and I feel like I can relate to this because I have lived through this time period, and I went to middle school when Snapchat and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook were all things that I had and things that I experienced. I felt like it was a way that the movie related to millennials in a way that a lot of movies try to do, but none really do all that effectively. I felt like 8th grade used the social media as a way to bring out how the character felt about herself, and they didn't just use it as a gimmick like, oh hey, check out, these characters are Snapchatting each other, because, you know, it's a high school movie, you gotta have characters Snapchatting each other because kids use Snapchat nowadays. Snapchat and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook all felt like sources that Kayla went to because she was lonely and she didn't really have friends in her life messaging her to validate her and make her feel like she had people. These social media outlets are what did that for her. And again, that felt like something that was just real and spoke to something that I feel like isn't addressed enough in a lot of movies nowadays. Outside of just all of the amazing social commentary that this movie made, and outside of all the really, I thought, deep themes that this movie had, though, I really thought that Elsie Fisher's performance is what made the movie, because she's in every single scene of the movie. I tried to think, I'm like, is there one? There's a few shots she's not in for sure, but every scene of the movie, Elsie Fisher is in it. You see this entire thing through her perspective, and you see the entire thing through her eyes of uncertainty. You see the entire movie through her perspective constantly changing on things. You see her perspective on learning new things and learning about how the world works and why it should be a certain way when it's actually a different way. You feel like you're going through these things for the first time, and you feel like in some ways it's funny, but in other ways it's revealing to you again, because even though you know things that she's finding out for the first time, you feel like you remember what it was like to be in her shoes when you were at that point in your life. And again, the movie does such a great job of grabbing you and bringing you in to the experience that Kay was going through, and I can't say many other movies movies this year have done that for me. I love watching movies. I go to the movies so many times a year, and I watch a movie and I'm like, yep, that was a movie that I thought was okay, or that was a movie I thought was pretty good, or that was a movie I didn't like at all. No movie this year has really grabbed me and made me think about a time in my life so clearly as 8th Grade did, and no movie put me into its character's shoes as much as 8th Grade did. And the other thing that I think is really worth noting is the music and the directorial style was great, because directorial style, first of all, the color palette felt like every scene wasn't super colorful, but every scene that was colorful for a reason, because if you see that, like, oh, Instagram has like a bunch of like flashy photos on and everything like that, that's because Kayla's in that flashy world. She feels like she's there. Or when her house is very drab, that's how she feels when she's in her house. It's a very kind of depressing place to be for her. She wants to be on these flashy apps that are much more brightly lit. So great job on the visual design to the entire team behind it. And the music choice I thought was excellent. Music is very important in both this movie and Hearts Beat Loud, which I saw earlier this week as well. And I think that this movie does it even better because it does such a great job of not having too many lyrics to it, yet still bringing out the emotion that the characters are going through in such scenes. I thought the relationship between Kayla and her dad was great. There was a scene where I'm like, I think I relate to the dad even more so than Kayla in this scene. And a movie that can put you in every character's shoes and make you feel like you relate to every character in some way is just a great movie. Guys, 8th Grade, I think it had one flaw, and that's that towards the end of the movie, at the beginning of the third act, they introduced this one subplot in kind of a car ride home that I thought was kind of geared towards a different movie. It felt a little bit Edge of 17-ish. If they took this scene out and they put it into like Edge of 17, which they kind of already have a scene somewhere to it, or into another like high school movie, it would make a lot of sense. For this movie though, I did feel like it was a little bit out of place. With that said though, it's about 10-15 minutes of the third act that I didn't really enjoy all that much. I still think they were good, and I still think they were relevant to what was going on in the movie, but I think that they could have been reworked to kind of fit towards a broader theme a bit more. With that said though, the movie goes on for another 10 or 15 minutes after that, and it really leaves you feeling positive coming out of it. For a character that's so anxious, and for a character that has such little self-esteem as Kayla, you feel uplifted coming out of this movie. You feel like, yeah, high school could be her time, or for me, the next phase in my life, the next months or years could be my time. You feel like this movie leaves you thinking that you can still set new hopes and dreams, and you can still do what you want to do, no matter how late it might seem in your life. It's very few movies that get me to react in such an emotional way coming out of them. It's very few movies that make me think about their complex themes so much. But Bo Burnham's done it in this movie. 8th Grade's a fantastic movie. Like I said, for my money, it's one of the best of 2018 so far. Be sure to run out to this as soon as you guys possibly can. I don't really rate movies anymore, but this is by far an A. It might even be an A+. I'll go back and see it and get back to you guys. But please let me know all of your thoughts on 8th Grade in the comment section down below. You guys can go over to mymoviethoughts.com, follow me on Twitter at JohnMHayeck, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for tons more posts from me. Links to all three of those are in the description down below. You guys can also like this video, comment on it, share it with some friends. I am John Hayeck, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching.